The scent of the Mage Tower was always a mixture of cold stone and the faint, ozone-heavy hum of mana, but in our private quarters, it had begun to smell like something else. A battlefield of suppressed emotions and domestic chaos. I sat by the hearth, the orange glow reflecting off the pages of the preservation-locked book Ruel had left for me, but my focus wasn't on the future. It was on the woman sitting across from me, glaring at a small, glass vial as if it contained a personal insult. The vial was the sap of the tree of obedience, a substance she had stubbornly insisted on trying after our visit to the auction house. I watched her drain it in a single defiant gulp, her sky-blue eyes never leaving mine. For a moment, she sat in a stiff, aristocratic silence. Then, the frost in her gaze began to melt into something uncharacteristically soft, something vulnerable. "Shale," I said, leaning forward, my voice a low, calculated hum. "The Villainess is currently under the influence of a truth-seeker's brew. Tell me, what is your devil's perfect plan for the evening? Is it more catfish, or are you actually going to admit that you've been looking at my lips for the last 10 minutes? She didn't snap. She didn't call me a squid. Instead, she let out a long, shaky breath, her light blue hair falling over her face like a curtain of silk. I wanted to see if I could make you stay," she whispered, her voice devoid of its usual jagged edges. "The wicked woman is conscious. She is conscious of how empty the room feels when you aren't mocking her. Is that what you wanted to hear, Aran Boslet? That your rehabilitation has turned me into a pathetic girl who fears the silence?" It was a staggering confession, delivered with the raw honesty of someone who had lost their armor. I didn't offer her comfort. Not yet. I was the villain, after all. I reached out and caught her chin, forcing her to meet my dark blue eyes. "The villain doesn't play with dolls, Shale. He plays with hearts," I said, my thumb brushing over her lower lip. "And right now, yours is beating like a trapped bird. This trial, you're putting yourself through this attempt to be the evil woman who doesn't care it's failing. You're becoming unbalanced, because you'll realize that being evil is lonely, and being mine is confusing." She let out a frustrated, muffled sound, her cheeks turning a deep, brilliant red that put any sunset to shame. The sap of obedience was wearing off, but the damage was done. She snatched her chin away and stormed toward the bed, her heels clicking violently on the stone. "I am not confused," she shouted, though her voice lacked its usual conviction. I am just cold, and I'm going to sleep. And you're going to stay in that chair and watch me win this war. Is that a threat?" I laughed, getting up to follow her. "Because a threat from a woman with red ears is hardly intimidating. You trying to act like a villainess who can discard her fiancé, yet you wearing the bracelet I gave you like it's a part of your skin." The days that followed were a whirlwind of successful villain strategies and stupid domestic disputes. Sael, desperate to reclaim her dignity after her obedience slip, decided that her next move would be the ultimate demonstration of her power. She cornered me in the library, holding a tattered, half-torn book with a title that made me raise an eyebrow. 999 Ways to Seduce a Man Hotly. "Iran," she said, her posture so stiff she looked like a marble statue. "Do you want to eat catfish?" I stared at her. "Shale, we ate catfish yesterday, and the day before. Are you trying to turn me into a bottom feeder, or is this your idea of a seductive menu?" "It is a strategy," she snapped, slamming the book onto the table. "The manual says that a man's heart is reached through his stomach, and catfish is. It is a powerful fish. It is persistent. Like me. You a weed, Shale, not a fish," I countered, pulling her closer until the scent of her winter lilies was the only thing I could breathe. "And if you want to get to my heart, you might want to try something other than casting out the wicked woman. Tactics. You're following a book that was clearly written by someone as socially stunted as you are." "I am not stunted," she cried, her eyes shimmering with that familiar, jagged fire. "I am the Villainess. I am supposed to be the one who torments. But you just keep smiling. You keep looking at me like I'm something to be protected instead of something to be feared. It makes me feel Strange. Strange is a good start, I whispered, my mana humming as it resonated with her proximity. It means the rehabilitation is taking hold. You're starting to care, Shael, and that's the most evil thing you've ever done to yourself. She didn't stay to argue. She grabbed her book and fled back to her room, but I knew she wasn't done. That night, I found her sitting in the middle of my bed, her light blue hair, a chaotic mess, and her sky blue eyes fixed on the door with a look of supreme entitlement. "Get out," she said, though she made no move to leave. "This is my room now. I've decided that a villainess needs more space to plan her revenge, and your bed is slightly more comfortable than mine. Is that so?" I leaned against the doorframe, a smirk playing on my lips. So the wicked woman is now a thief, stealing a man's bed while he's still standing in the room? That's an obvious end for a villain, isn't it? Being caught in the act? "I am not stealing. I am requisitioning," she yelled, pulling the heavy velvet blanket up to her chin. "Now go sleep on the couch, or in the hallway. I don't care where you go, as long as you leave me to my worry." "I think not," I said, walking over and sitting on the edge of the mattress. The bed dipped under my weight, and I watched her reflexively move closer to me, her body betraying the threat she was trying to make. "If you want my bed, you have to deal with the owner. The villain doesn't play by the rules, Shael. If you're in my bed, you're in my territory." I have an axe," she stammered, though her hands were clutching the blanket, not a weapon. "I'll use magic. I'll freeze your blankets so they're like ice." "Do it," I challenged, leaning in until our noses brushed. "Freeze them, but you'll only be freezing yourself. Or are you going to finally admit that you didn't come here to steal a bed? You came here because you couldn't sleep without knowing I was nearby." She didn't answer. She just turned her head away, her ears turning that brilliant, frantic red again. We stayed like that for a long time, two villains, sharing a single bed in the heart of the Mage Tower. The silence broken only by the sound of her racing heart. I could feel the heat radiating from her, a stark contrast to the cold mask she tried to wear. "I can't sleep because I don't have a doll," she whispered after a while, her voice so small it was almost lost in the darkness. "You gave me that doll, and now, whenever I try to sleep without it, I feel like I'm going to disappear. Is that what you wanted, Iran? To make me so dependent on your gifts that I can even close my eyes in peace? I wanted to give you a reason to wake up, Shael," I said softly, my hand finding hers beneath the blankets. Her fingers were cold, but they didn't pull away. They gripped mine with a desperate, unspoken hunger. The doll was just a placeholder. The rehabilitation isn't about dependency. It's about realizing that you don't have to be a monster to be seen. You can just be you. The next morning, the wicked woman was gone, replaced by a version of Sale that left me staring in disbelief. On the small table next to my bed was a plate of desserts, small, delicate cupcakes decorated with intricate sugar flowers. They were a peace offering, delivered with the same silent, stubborn pride she used for everything else. "The villainess leaves desserts," I noted, catching her in the hallway later that morning. She was wearing her armor again, her light blue hair perfectly pinned, but the red cheeks she was trying to hide gave her away. Is this another successful villain strategy? Trying to poison me with sugar? They were excess, she snapped, though she couldn't stop her gaze from flickering to the plate in my hand. I had too much flour. It was a waste to throw it away. "And stop smiling like that. It makes you look even more like a squid than usual." "I'll be a squid then," I laughed, taking a bite of a cupcake. It was sweet, too sweet, but it tasted like the first crack in a winter that had lasted a lifetime. "But tell me, Shael, if you so worried about the villain's obvious end, why are you still here? Why haven't you run back to the safety of the Asbel estate?" She stopped walking, her back to me. "Because I'm worried, Ederon," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm worried about the festival. I'm worried about Cly. And I'm worried that if I leave, you'll realize that you're better off without a woman who can even wear an apron properly." I walked up behind her, placing my hands on her shoulders. I could feel her trembling under my touch. "The villain doesn't care about aprons, Shael. He cares about the person wearing them. And as for Cly, She's a heroine in a story that's already being rewritten. You're the only wicked woman I want in my ending. Now, stop being stupid, and let's go find some more catfish. I'm starting to think you were onto something with that menu. She let out a soft, genuine laugh, a sound so rare it felt like a miracle. She turned around, her sky-blue eyes finally meeting mine with a clarity that wasn't born of mana or truth serums. It was just Sale. I still hate you, she said, but she was smiling. I know, I replied, pulling her into a hug that lasted all night in my mind, even as we stepped back out into the light of the Mage Tower. 2 villains, 1 story, and a trial that we're finally winning together.